In this video, we will show you how to replace your rear flex hose on this Ford Fusion. You'll have one of these on each side of your vehicle located behind your rear wheels. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing you need to do is safely raise and support the rear of the vehicle so your wheel's off the ground. Once you've done that, continue on to removing all 5 of your 19mm lug nuts and we can get the wheel off of here. Now that we have the wheel out of the way, the next thing we want to do is pay attention to the caliper itself. If you were to look along the back side of the caliper, right along here, you're going to find a 10mm headed bleeder screw. We need to go ahead and break this free. Make sure you have a collection receptacle under this area. Now continuing from here, it's best to make your way into the passenger compartment. In the passenger compartment, we want to go ahead and press that brake pedal all the way down to the floor and hold it there with something such as a pry bar. That's going to prevent the fluid from slowly trickling out through the flex hose and the brake line as we continue on through this process. Moving along from the bleeder screw, we're going to focus on where the flex hose connects to the caliper. This is held in place with a banjo bolt. These range in sizes. I'm using an 11mm. As we remove the banjo bolt, you should find you have 2 gaskets you have to remove. You will not be reusing these. There's our bolt with one of the gaskets. We'll set that aside, dispose of it properly. A quick inspection of the banjo bolt. You will be reusing this. We'll pull out that flex hose. Quick inspection of both ends of the flex hose. You want to make sure that you do not have one of your existing gaskets still in place. We'll inspect the top of the caliper where that gasket could be located. Make sure you do remove it. You never want to double gasket one of these areas. Now let's follow that flex hose. You can see a mounting point where it connects to a wiring harness. For this, you just want to flex those 2 ears apart. You should be able to slide it out of place. Now as you follow the flex hose, you're going to find that it follows underneath your ABS wire. And the ABS wire is held to a bracket which is part of the flex hose, so we have to separate it. For this, essentially just give it a little wiggle and lift it straight up and out of place. Now still looking at that flex hose bracket, it actually makes its way across the knuckle here and it's held in place with an 8mm headed mounting bolt. We'll remove the mounting bolt. Just give this a light tap, break it free. It does have a small hooked area that makes its way down in this area. You can see that. We'll make sure we clean up the knuckle area here, confirm that that's clean and smooth. For now, let's go ahead and follow the flex hose up to its next mounting point. Before we start loosening this, make sure you have a collection receptacle underneath the far area of the flex hose that we have already disconnected. Fluid will make its way out. Now if we gently flex this out of the way, you can see your brake line leading to your brake flex hose. In between the two, there's a bracket and a metal clip. We're going to pause on that clip. We don't need to remove it yet. We do want to use a 13mm to loosen the brake line fitting. There we are. I think it freed up. Once you have it separated, you want to give this a close inspection and also make sure no miscellaneous debris falls inside this area. Now we can focus on the metal clip and the metal bracket that's attached to the body of the vehicle. We're removing the clip. For this, you can use pretty much anything. I'm just going to use some pliers. Sometimes a pick will help as well. Couple light tugs on that, slides right out. Now that we have that separated, the next thing we'll do is just pay attention to the line itself and the fitting. You want to confirm that it's clean with no miscellaneous debris. We'll protect this area. To protect it, you can just use one of your bleeder screw covers that you remove from a bleeder screw. Slide it right on the end here. That'll prevent anything from making its way inside the braking system. We'll set that aside. Slide that out of place. And there it is, friend. Clean and inspect the mounting bracket. Okay, friend, let's prepare to install our brand new rear brake flex hose. For this, we'll be starting with the side that goes to the brake line. Looking along where my index finger is, you can tell that it's rounded and then it has a flat area. We need to pay attention to that flat area. Looking at the bracket where it will slide into, this area right where my index finger is where that flat area will be, which is essentially the inboard side. We'll get this flex hose in place. Before putting in the clamp, it's a good idea to start in your fitting. Typically for this, you want to start in the fitting by hand. If you have a hard time, just be extremely careful using a wrench so you do not cross-thread it. Slide this through here. Now, like I said, you want to start this in by hand. Mine's a little bit hard to turn. At this point, it's definitely started in. Before I continue tightening this, I want to make sure this is properly aligned and put in my mounting clamp, holding it in the proper position. I may have to spin this a little bit, get it aligned. I can see the base is properly up against that mounting bracket. Let's get our clamp in place. Tap it in. Let's continue tightening this. Right there's where it bottomed out. Just make sure that's nice and snug. You do not want to have a brake fluid leak. It's time for the rest of the flex hose here. As far as the flex hose, it will make its way under the ABS wire, but it does not go underneath this other wiring harness here. We're just going to bring that right across the caliper. We'll set it over here. Continue on to paying attention to this bracket. Now bringing the bracket down into place, you can remember on the bottom of the bracket, you have that hooked area that will fit into the knuckle, and you also have your mounting bolt port. We'll get everything aligned. Just press this right down. Continue on with your 8mm headed mounting bolt. Start it in by hand and snug it up. Right there's bottomed out. Make sure that bracket's properly secured. Let's continue on to our ABS wire. Go ahead and slide that right in there. Now let's make our way all the way to where the flex hose connects to the caliper. We have our banjo bolt. We have two brand new gaskets. You need to make sure you use brand new gaskets here. We'll have one of them on the banjo bolt and we'll slide it right on through that flex hose. Continuing on, we have our second new gasket. We're going to slide that right on the other side. At this point, there's a gasket on each side of the flex hose. Now we'll take the flex hose and we'll get it in position. You can see the flex hose does have a hooked area there. That's for the alignment. We're going to make sure we press that right into its mounting point and align our threaded port for the banjo bolt. We'll start this in by hand. Snug this up, torque it to 18 foot-pounds. I'm just going to confirm that torque real quick. Double check to make sure this is secured. Continuing on from here, we also have to secure our wiring harness to the flex hose. Has this little clip on the flex hose. For this, you just want to carefully press it inside of this area. Once you hear it latch in, give it a wiggle, make sure it's properly secured. Starting at the master cylinder, we want to make sure we clean up the area so no miscellaneous debris falls inside the braking system. Just give this a quick wipe. You can remove the cap. Turn that counterclockwise. Once you have that off of there, a quick inspection of the seal. If it looks like it's cracked or damaged in any way, you definitely want to go ahead and replace that cover. Now continuing from here, typically you'd want to try to remove as much of the brake fluid from the master cylinder as possible. On this master cylinder, you can see that the neck actually makes its way all the way underneath the wiper cowl, and it's almost impossible to remove the brake fluid, so essentially what we're going to do now is just make sure we're topped off up to the maximum line with our clean .4 brake fluid. With that topped off, we'll reinstall our cap. We're going to pay attention along the back side of the caliper. This is where the bleeder screw is located. On my caliper, I'll be using a 10mm. Now, before I open this up, I'm going to talk through the bleeding sequence. To be able to do this, we want to have a second person inside of the passenger compartment. That person's going to pump up the brake pedal till it's nice and firm, let me know they're holding it, and I'm going to use my 10mm to open this up. When this happens, you're going to see fluid making its way out. While we're doing this, we're going to confirm that there's no dirty fluid and definitely no air bubbles in the system. We'll repeat the process as necessary. Go ahead and pump up the brake pedal, please.
Holding.
My wrench on there. I'll close this now. Go ahead and pump, please. Go ahead and pump.
Holding.
That's perfect. You can release, thank you. Now, the amount of times you have to do this can vary depending on your vehicle itself. Like I said, you just want to make sure you have all the dirty fluid out of there and it's only clean fluid making its way out. Once you've completed this process, go ahead and clean up your mess, reinstall your bleeder screw cover in this area, make your way back up under the hood to the master cylinder. Back at the master cylinder, we can remove our cap. We've already inspected that seal. Let's top it off to the maximum again. Reinstall your cover. Now we can make our way to the passenger side front. Now it's time to install the wheel. We'll get this in place. Start on all 5 of our 19mm lug nuts. Once they're bottomed out, we can get the wheel safely on the ground, torque each of these to 100 foot-pounds. With the wheel safely back down on the ground, we're going to torque each one of our lug nuts in a crisscross manner to 100 foot-pounds. Okay friend, we've finished the installation of our flex hose. We've bled the brakes. The next thing you need to do is go ahead and pump up the brake pedal one more time, confirm you have no leaks, clean your mess, and take your vehicle for a road test. Torqued.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.